They thought humans were a joke, a cosmic blip, an evolutionary accident barely worth observing. But they forgot one thing: never underestimate a species that figured out coffee, sarcasm, and duct tape. I, Commander Varn Ironcrest, pause the recording device and adjust my ceremonial sash. The polished obsidian walls of the council chamber reflect the ambient light from the floating orbs above. Around the circular table, representatives from 27 advanced civilizations sit in various states of boredom and mild amusement. Some tap their appendages on the quantum crystal surface, while others communicate through their neural interfaces, probably sharing jokes about our latest discovery. Continue playback, I command, my secondary breathing tubes fluttering with mild irritation. The holographic display springs to life, showing images of the backwater planet called Earth. A ripple of laughter echoes through the chamber as we watch their primitive combustion vehicles crawl along their surface roads. Really? Surface roads? Even the Zoblaxians figured out gravity manipulation before they invented the wheel. Esteemed members of the Council, I say, straightening my posture. As head of the Exploration Division, I present our findings on species 7214. Self-named humans. They have achieved basic spaceflight capabilities using, and I must verify this is correct, controlled explosions. Senior Counselor. Counselor Lyra Glimmershade lets out a sound that her species considers laughter. Her bioluminescent patterns flash in amusement. Controlled explosions. They strap themselves to bombs? Precisely, Counselor. I wave my upper limb, changing the display to show their spacecraft. They call these rockets. The principle is not unlike giving a hatchling too much sugar and pointing them in the right direction. More laughter. Even Ambassador Envoy Kel Prismborn, known for their stoic demeanor, vibrates their crystalline form in mirth. But surely, interjects Council Member Delegate Rin Feathercrest, his feathered crest rising in curiosity. They must have some redeeming qualities. The exploration protocol requires 3 notable achievements for consideration of contact. I click my mandibles, pulling up the next series of images. Well, they have developed something they call social media, where they share images of their young and their meals. They spend considerable time arguing about the correct way to store nutrition tablets they call cookies, and they have multiple global celebrations dedicated to spherical objects they kick around. That's it? Dash's crest deflates slightly. Oh, and they believe they're alone in the universe, despite broadcasting their entertainment signals across space for decades. Half their scientists search for alien life, while the other half insist it doesn't exist. We've been picking up something called reality shows for years. Fascinating stuff, really. There's one about small humans in tiaras. Admiral Naira interrupts, her patterns now showing signs of concern. Are you suggesting we waste Council resources monitoring a species that still thinks digital watches are a pretty neat idea? I shuffle my data crystals. Protocol dictates we must establish an observation post. I recommend Station Commander Nyx Cloudstrider for the position. She lost a bet during last week's quantum chess tournament, and this seems like appropriate punishment. Very well, Naira sighs. Station Commander Stormchaser will observe the humans, though I doubt they'll do anything more impressive than inventing a new way to carbonate their beverages. Meeting adjourned. As the Council members file out, I can't help but feel a twinge of something. Maybe it's the way these humans keep trying despite their limitations. Or maybe it's indigestion from that experimental food replicator in the break room. Either way, I have a strange feeling we might be underestimating these peculiar beings. But what harm could come from dismissing one primitive species? It's not like they could surprise us, right? If only I knew then how wrong we were. Looking back, I should have known our first official contact would be a disaster when Station Commander Storm Chaser reported that humans had detected our cloaked observation post. Not through advanced technology, mind you. No, a human child with something called a ham radio accidentally picked up our quantum communications while trying to talk to someone called Santa. The Council scrambled to assemble a first contact team, and I had the misfortune of leading it. We chose their largest governing body, the United Nations, as our point of contact. Our linguistic computers had processed their languages, and we felt confident in our ability to communicate. We were wrong. So very, very wrong. Our ship descended through Earth's atmosphere in broad daylight, our hull gleaming with the advanced alloys of a civilization thousands of years ahead of theirs. We landed on the carefully manicured lawn of the UN headquarters, accidentally crushing something called a hot dog stand. I still receive monthly complaints about that. The human designated as their chief diplomat approached our ship. Emissary Riley Sparks, they called her. She stood there in what we later learned was a power suit, her head crowned with what our databases identified as bedhead, because she'd been called in on her day off. "Greetings, peculiar carbon-based beings," our translator boomed. "We come in mathematical superiority." Winters raised an eyebrow. "Don't you mean peace?" Peace. Superiority. These words share 47.2% semantic overlap in the galactic standard. I explained, my translator struggling with the nuances. "We wish to establish diplomatic bowel movements with your species." That's when Winters did something unexpected. She laughed, not the polite diplomatic chuckle we'd anticipated, but a full-bodied laugh that had her doubling over. Several other humans joined in, and soon the entire welcoming committee was in hysterics. "I think," Winters said, wiping tears from her eyes, "you meant diplomatic relations." "Is there a difference?" I asked, genuinely confused. Our translator beeped in distress and shut down, apparently having developed what humans call performance anxiety. What followed was 4 hours of increasingly chaotic attempts at communication. We tried universal sign language, which somehow resulted in me accidentally proposing marriage to 3 different UN security guards. Our backup translator interpreted everything through what it called interpretive dance mode, leading to an impromptu performance that went viral on something called TikTok. But Winters, showing the first glimpse of why humans would later prove so remarkable, pulled out her personal communication device. "Have you folks tried Google Translate?" We stared at her blankly. She tapped on her phone screen a few times and held it up. To our astonishment, it began translating our words with 60% accuracy. Not perfect, but better than our billion-credit translation system that was now doing the Macarena in the corner. "How?" I demanded. "This is impossible. Your technology is primitive." Winters shrugged. "We've got like 7,000 languages on Earth. We had to figure something out. Also, did you know you've been broadcasting your entertainment channels? Our tech companies have been using that data to improve machine learning algorithms. We thought it was just weird interference, but turns out it was alien soap operas." I felt my scales flush purple with embarrassment. They'd been learning our languages from our reality shows, including the one about juvenile delinquent asteroids finding love. "Now," Winters continued, consulting her phone, "your translator said something about trading recipes for something called quantum cookies." No, I corrected hastily. "We wish to establish formal diplomatic relations," she finished, "not bowel movements. Though after trying that hot dog you crushed, those might have been synonymous. The human sense of humor was starting to make my head hurt. But as I watched Winters navigate the cultural minefield with grace and that ever-present smile, I began to suspect that maybe, just maybe, we'd underestimated these humans in more ways than one. "Shall we start over?" she suggested. "Hi, I'm Emissary Riley Sparks, and on behalf of humanity, I'd like to welcome you to Earth. Would you like a coffee? Fair warning, it's from the UN cafeteria, so it might count as a chemical weapon on your world." I found myself nodding, though I didn't know what coffee was. In retrospect, that should have been my second warning sign. The first contact ceremony was about to become significantly more interesting, especially once we discovered what caffeine does to our species. But that's a story for another report, one that the Council has classified under "Never Speak of This Again," under penalty of mandatory reality show participation. The Council chamber buzzed with nervous energy as I presented our latest initiative. After the diplomatic situation involving 3 over-caffeinated Council members trying to dance something called the YMCA on the UN building roof, we needed to save face. "The Galactic Tournament of Champions," I announced, my voice still hoarse from that karaoke night that followed First Award Act. "We invite species across the galaxy to compete in feats of strength, skill, and intelligence. The winners earn the right to vote on Galactic Council matters." Counselor Lyra Glimmershade's patterns flickered anxiously. "And we're inviting the humans." "Protocol requires it," I replied. "But don't worry, they'll never qualify past the preliminary rounds. Their bodies are practically twigs compared to the Titan bearers of Kroll 9. Ambassador Warlord Threx Firehide of the Kroll 9 delegation puffed up his armored exoskeleton. "My people have won every physical competition for the past 3 centuries. These humans will learn their place." That's when Emissary Riley Sparks, now Earth's official ambassador thanks to her handling of the first contact fiasco, walked in. The Council had granted her observer status, mainly because nobody could figure out how to work the coffee machine without her. "A sports competition?" Her eyes lit up in a way that should have worried us. "What kind of events are we talking about?" I pulled up the holographic display. "Standard trials, endurance racing across the burning plains of Nexus, strength testing in the triple gravity chambers, mental challenges in the quantum puzzle maze. Nothing too..." I paused, searching for a diplomatic word. "Nothing too challenging for your fragile species," Razak finished, subtly flexing his reinforced limbs. Winters smiled. That smile should have been our third warning sign. "Sign us up. All events." The chamber erupted in what humans would call polite alien snickering. "Ambassador Winters," I tried to explain gently, "the burning plains are actually burning. The gravity chambers would crush your bones. The quantum maze drives most beings insane. We're trying to avoid an interstellar incident." "Cool, cool," she nodded, tapping on her phone. "Quick question. Your rules don't specify anything about equipment or support gear, right?" I checked the regulations. "Well, no, but..." "Perfect. Oh, and we'll need about 3 weeks to prepare our team." 3 weeks later, I stood at the training observation post, watching the human team with growing unease. They'd selected 5 representatives, led by their top athlete, Logan Titan Graves, a name that seemed unnecessarily boastful until I saw him in action. The humans had done something unprecedented. Instead of trying to enhance their bodies through genetic modification like most species, they'd built mechanical assistance suits, primitive by our standards, but surprisingly effective. They called them exoskeletons, though Razak took personal offense at the term. "They mock our natural armor," he complained during one observation session. "Look at them, scurrying around in their metal shells." I watched as Steele completed another lap in the gravity chamber, his suit whirring and clanking. Their times are improving. Improving, Razak scoffed. My hatchlings could. Wait, did he just break the course record? Indeed, Steele had just demolished the previous record by 12 seconds. The humans had somehow modified their suits to not just withstand the crushing gravity, but to use it to their advantage, storing and releasing kinetic energy, like some sort of mechanical spring. But it wasn't just their technology that unsettled us. It was their training methods. While other species focused on perfecting single techniques, the humans cross-trained in everything. They called it chaos preparation. You never know what might go wrong. Winters explained during one session, watching as their quantum maze specialist, Dr. Elara Voss, solved puzzles while being sprayed with water. So we prepare for everything to go wrong. That's not how training works, I protested. Tell that to their Special Forces training program. She grinned. This is actually pretty tame compared to what they go through. The final straw came during the team endurance trials. The Kroll 9 champions had just completed their demonstration, an impressive display of power and precision. Then the humans took the field. They didn't just run the course. They turned it into what they called a parkour playground. They flipped over obstacles, used their suits to bounce off walls, and somehow turned the anti-gravity sections into what looked, suspiciously, like a dance routine. They're not taking this seriously, Razak thundered. No, I realized, watching Steele help up a fallen teammate with a laugh before they both continued the course. They're having fun. And that's when it hit me. While we saw a serious competition, a test of supremacy, they saw a challenge, an adventure, and most worryingly, they saw potential for what they called showing off. The actual tournament was 3 days away. As I filed my report that evening, I couldn't shake the feeling that we'd created something we couldn't control. The humans weren't just participating, they were innovating, adapting, and worst of all, they were enjoying themselves. The Galactic Tournament of Champions was about to become very interesting indeed. The Stadium of Champions on Nexus Prime sparkled under the light of 3 suns. Thousands of spectators from across the galaxy filled the crystalline stands, their excited chatter creating a symphony of different languages. I stood in the officials' box, trying to maintain my composure as the human team entered the arena. What are those? Speakers on their suits? Naira asked, her patterns shifting in confusion. Indeed, the human team was marching into what they called their entrance music. Steele led the way, his exoskeleton now decorated with what appeared to be racing stripes and sponsorship logos. The crowd fell silent, then burst into murmurs as Eye of the Tiger blasted through the stadium sound system. First event, I announced, grateful for the distraction. The Burning Plains Survival Race. The course stretched before us, a hellscape of active lava flows and plasma storms. Most species approached it with careful planning and protective shields. The humans, they turned their suits into what they called rocket-powered skateboards. This is suicide, Razak muttered as Steele took his position. The starting signal flared. Steele shot forward, his modified suit leaving a trail of sparks. Instead of avoiding the plasma storms, he rode them, using the electromagnetic currents to boost his speed. When he reached the lava flows, he didn't go around them. He jumped over them, performing what Dr. Quick excitedly called sick flips. He finished the course in half the expected time, covered in soot and wearing what humans call a huge grin. That's not That shouldn't, Razak sputtered. Next event, I called out, perhaps a bit too quickly. The Quantum Maze Challenge proved even more surprising. Dr. Quick entered, wearing what looked like a modified virtual reality headset. We figured if you're going to mess with our heads, she explained, we might as well mess back. She proceeded to solve the maze's impossible geometries by, as she put it, thinking in memes. Her solution involved applying what she called internet logic to quantum mechanics. Several of our top physicists requested immediate retirement after watching her work. But it was the triple gravity chamber that truly changed everything. The Kroll 9 team had dominated this event for centuries. Their natural armor and enhanced strength made them perfect for the crushing pressures. As their champion entered the chamber, everyone expected another routine victory. Then something went wrong. A power fluctuation caused the gravity to spike dangerously. The Kroll 9 warrior fell, trapped under their own armored weight. Without hesitation, Steele charged in, his suit screaming in protest. The external panels began to buckle. But he pressed on. Behind him, the rest of the human team rushed to modify their equipment. "What are they doing?" Naira asked, her pattern showing genuine concern. "They're linking their suits' power systems," Winters explained from her observer's seat, "creating a sort of, what did they call it? A Power Rangers moment." The combined energy of 5 exoskeletons proved enough. Steele reached the fallen warrior, and together with his team's help, they carried them to safety. The crowd erupted in cheers. Razak stood silent for a long moment. Then, to everyone's surprise, he laughed. In 3 centuries, no one has ever thought to simply help. The rest of the competition became something entirely different. The Kroll 9 team, impressed by the humans' actions, began sharing their armor techniques. The humans, in turn, taught them something called crowd surfing during the zero-gravity events. Other species joined in. The Quantum Collective offered to upgrade the humans' VR systems. The Void Dancers taught them new ways to manipulate gravity. In return, the humans introduced concepts like high fives and victory dances to the galaxy. By the final event, a team endurance challenge, traditional rivalries had been forgotten. I watched in amazement as teams that had once competed now collaborated, combining their various strengths and technologies. "This isn't how the tournament is supposed to work," I muttered. Winters appeared beside me. "No, it's better. Look." She pointed to where Steele was teaching a group of void dancers how to fist bump, while Dr. Quick explained the concept of GGEs to some confused quantum beings. "Your people turned a competition into a cooperation," I admitted. "That's kind of our thing." She smiled. "We're not the strongest, fastest, or smartest, but we're really good at making friends and turning bad situations into opportunities for fun." The final scores showed multiple teams sharing top positions, something unprecedented in tournament history. The council was in an uproar about how to handle voting rights with tied winners, but as I watched the various species celebrating together, sharing stories and teaching each other their victory celebrations, I realized something important. The humans hadn't just competed in our tournament, they'd changed it fundamentally. They'd made it better. Now, if we could just get them to stop teaching everyone about something called crowd waves, emergency transmission, Nexus Prime, tournament finals. Nobody expected the quantum singularity. In retrospect, perhaps we should have been more careful about gathering so many powerful energy sources in one place. Between the various species' technology, the humans' jury-rigged power systems, and the leftover energy from the competition, something was bound to go wrong. The warning came during the closing ceremonies, a strange fluctuation in the stadium's power grid, followed by what humans would call a really bad feeling. "The containment fields are failing," our chief scientist announced, panic evident in their voice. "The combined energies are creating a cascade effect." I watched in horror as a swirling vortex of quantum energy began forming above the stadium. The very fabric of space-time started to warp, threatening to tear apart everything in its vicinity. "Evacuate immediately," I ordered, but the stadium's exit portals had already begun to malfunction. That's when I heard it. Laughter. Human laughter. Steele stood with his team, looking at the growing singularity with what appeared to be excitement. "Hey," he called out. "Remember that movie Amanda showed us? The one with the giant robots?" Dr. Quick's eyes lit up. "Are you thinking what I'm thinking? If you're thinking about using our suit's power cores to create a reverse polarity feedback loop while simultaneously channeling the quantum energy through a makeshift containment field," Steele grinned. "In English," I interrupted. "We're going to build a big magnet and plug it into the space hole," Steele explained. Before I could protest the absurdity of their plan, they were already in motion. The human team began modifying their suits while Razak and his warriors provided their armor's power cells. The Quantum Collective contributed their computational power, and the Void Dancers offered their gravity manipulation expertise. "This is madness," I muttered while watching as humans directed various alien species like they were organizing a neighborhood project. "No," Winters corrected, coordinating efforts from her command station. "This is what we do best. We improvise, adapt, and bring people together." The next few minutes were chaos. Steele and his team, their suits now linked to various alien technologies, formed a circle around the singularity. Quick interfaced with the Quantum Collective, began calculating energy patterns. "Now," Steele shouted. Energy beams from each suit shot upward, connecting with the singularity. The stadium trembled. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then something amazing occurred. The various energy signatures began harmonizing. The Kroll 9 power cells provided the strength. The Void Dancer's gravity tech provided control, and the Quantum Collective's calculations provided precision. At the center of it all, the human's primitive technology served as the linchpin, binding everything together. "It's working," Dr. Quick exclaimed. "The singularity is collapsing." The vortex began to shrink, its energy being safely channeled and dispersed. When it finally winked out of existence, the stadium erupted in cheers. I approached Steele as his team disconnected their systems. "That was unprecedented. How did you know it would work?" He shrugged, his suit sparking slightly. "We didn't, but we figured if we got everyone working together, we'd figure something out. That's kind of our specialty." Later, during the emergency council session, I found myself doing something unprecedented. I admitted I was wrong. "Members of the council," I announced, "I moved to grant humanity full membership in the galactic community." "On what grounds?" Naira asked, though her pattern showed she already knew the answer. "On the grounds that they've shown us something we didn't even know we were missing. While we focused on advancing our individual technologies and abilities, they focused on bringing people together. Their greatest strength isn't their adaptability or their creativity, though both are remarkable. It's their ability to unite others, to find common ground, and to face impossible odds with what they call style." The vote was unanimous. As I signed the official documents, Winters approached me with that now familiar smile. "So," she said, "about that coffee machine in the council chamber." "No," I replied firmly. The last thing this galaxy needs is caffeinated council members doing something called the Macarena again. She laughed. Fair enough, but you might want to prepare yourself. Now that we're official members, wait until you see what humans call a diplomatic party. I felt my scales pale slightly. Should I be worried? Let's just say you might want to stock up on aspirin. Oh, and maybe learn the electric slide. As I watched the various species mingling, sharing stories, and teaching each other their customs, I realized that the galaxy would never be quite the same. The humans had arrived, and they'd brought with them something we never knew we needed. A reminder that sometimes the greatest achievements come not from superior technology or strength, but from the simple act of working together. And maybe, just maybe, having a little fun along the way. End log. And someone please tell the Void Dancers to stop attempting human breakdancing. We don't have insurance for that.